Welcome to She's Got Guts, where functional nutrition meets ancient wisdom to bring you grounded insights and practical tools for your wellness journey. Join Laura, licensed Eastern medicine practitioner and wellness wizard, and Molly, registered dietitian and gut health expert, as they unpack trends, tackle bloating, balance hormones, and help you thrive in modern womanhood without completely frickin' losing your mind. Let's do this. Today, we have dancing queen Katie Sutherland of Womb Wellness Revolution, helping us harness the energy of the womb as a spiritual compass and answer our questions about pelvic health, my abdominal health, and the nervous system. Today is all about the core. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Great.
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying a little bit more about who I am
Love it.
and just a small vignette that my golden thread of my work. It just always brings me back to our core and our center, from having gut health challenges in college to then going on this path once I became pregnant and postpartum healing and everything, just needing to really tend this core part of my body. And
Mm.
when you're working on it for yourself and you're a massage therapist and a health coach, guess what you end up studying? To give back to other people. So
Wow.
that's kind of my biggest of what landed me on the path was receiving my abdominal therapy while I was in labor with my daughter in 2011.
Mm.
So that was a very, very powerful experience on many, many levels. And that kind of really lit a fire about pursuing this. I had learned some just through my studies in massage, and I'd studied deeply about the nervous system, but really started to hone in on the core and the gut
Mm.
and how the nervous system interfaces with both our reproductive system and our digestive and elimination systems, like how that whole system works together in harmony or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
tell us what Maya abdominal means, what that phrase means?
Yeah, so the woman that I studied with is named Rosita Arvigo. And, they have since divided up some of the way that the work is taught, but she's an American woman, but she was living in Belize. She was already a herbalist and practiced a type of chiropractic called naturopathy. This was in the 70s.
Cool.
And so she was living in Belize off the
Mm.
grid in the jungle and got, she was bringing Western herbs to set up a apothecary there and do herbal
Mm.
consults, but heard about this Mayan healer and started to hear about the Mayan midwives. And she got interested. If you want to hear her book, Sastoon, it is a phenomenal read. I mean, she is absolutely like a visionary for what she did. She basically bushwhacked through the jungle at least once a week and went and stayed with this little tiny Mayan guy, and he lived in a very humble home in the jungle, and she just said, "Hi, I'm here to learn." And he was like, "Go away." And she just kept showing up, and she's like, "I'll help you with your herbs." And he was like in his 80s at this point.
Wow.
She ended up fostering a friendship and eventually apprenticing with him. And with her commitment and a number of other people getting involved, they absolutely like saved Mayan medicine in that area of Belize. So the Maya lived from the Yucatan in Mexico all the way down to Guatemala. And so she really focused on Belize, but that medicine was on the verge of going extinct because all the people were just going to hospitals and thought that was witchcraft. And they all think it's witchcraft until they show up in the middle of the night, like the hospital couldn't help us. Like, what do we
Mhm.
do? And he would help them. And he knew 500 herbs by heart. That couldn't write his name.
Huh.
Like he was amazing. And so she got to study with him, and her magic was translating it for us in the West.
Mm.
And he gave her total blessing to like share this and share the other midwives they were working with their work. And so she started bringing them to the US, and then she started teaching it. And, she would learn the techniques that we do on the belly and on the back. And then she would go research like, well, what ligaments are we working on there? Like what system is that affecting? So
Mhm.
that, she really translated it between our Western science and Western anatomy, and then with the traditional medicine. So I've studied that for a long time. I've done most of their trainings. And then I also studied with Tammy Lynn Kent, who is based here in Portland, and she does the holistic pelvic care. And so I kind of marry the two of those together in my practice.
Why did we never do that when you were in my clinic? What is wrong with me? Why did we never trade that? Like, now that I have you sitting like this and we're not running around between 3 different rooms like chicken with our head cut off, being so calm for holding space for others. What was I thinking?
We can do it now.
Okay.
We can still do
Yes.
it.
So I'd love to just kind of get a better idea of your work with the womb and kind of how that relates to the core of womanhood and how we can kind of find that sacred vocation and all the things that you so clearly and beautifully talk about in your branding and in your message.
Yeah, so I got this really from the Mayan philosophy, but I've really come to realize that the womb space for a woman, I mean, we create life from that. It's as powerful as our hearts in a lot of ways. And it has, of course, because of many reasons, not been given its due respect and honoring from the minute, we begin bleeding as girls and all the way through menopause and beyond. The womb for me is like, so this I'm going to get a little more esoteric and energetic, is like, for me, yes, I have a strong connection to my heart, and I was a yoga teacher. I've done a ton of work with the chakras and meditations that are heart based. But for me, if I want to really hear my own inner wisdom, I go deep into my pelvic bowl and into the womb, because the womb seems to always know. I can't tell you how many clients I've had, young clients, who are like, I don't know, I'm in this relationship, I don't know. And like they're getting UTIs or yeast infections all the time. And then, they break up with the person. And of course, they're having probably less sex, maybe, but also they're like, my body was telling me.
Yeah.
Like my womb was telling me that something was off.
Mm.
I've had, I mean, hundreds of women have told me stories like this. Like, I knew I couldn't hide anymore because I was having like debilitating periods, or I knew I couldn't get away with this anymore because every time I went to work, my stomach was just like in knots and having all these GI symptoms. So really, I feel like the gut and the womb, like it doesn't lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're like, I feel that in my gut. And you're like, no, actually, I feel that in my womb. My womb
Yeah.
is telling me, my gut is telling me. I'm curious, Katie, when you're working with people, to hold space for that in a world where our nervous systems are, in kind of this low grade fight or flight all the time. When you are addressing that, how much time do we spend, educating people that their nervous system is oftentimes the driver for a lot of how you sink into being able to listen to your pelvic bowl and its energy that it holds?
Right. Well, first, because I have the way that I work is hands-on, one-on-one, and in circles too, but I can really guide people into that place where their nervous system, like, oh, see, this is really what it feels like to drop. Like, as one of my teachers says, you feel that plop. Like
Let's plop
it's
in.
like yeah, like you're not kind of up here
Mm-hmm.
from the busyness of your day. Like you're really like
Yeah.
down in the body. I have the opportunity to work with people so they have that palpable. And then my work has a lot of self-care practices that I teach people to be able to force that at home in between sessions. And yeah, like as I'm saying, like the womb is everything. Like the nervous system is also everything.
Hmm.
And as you guys know, as gut specialists, the nervous system is so influential on the gut.
Mhm.
And we have all those things, butterflies in your stomach or
Hmm.
it's twisted in knots. It's like, well, that's like a real feeling. And there's like a real physiological reaction that happens as a result of that nervous system being tuned to come into rest and digest. It's like rest, digest, and healthy cycle, healthy flow.
Mm. Yeah, it reminds me in, traditional Chinese medicine, we talk about the jing, right? Like our life force we've been given from our mother and our father, and it, resides in the container that holds the jing in our body really is our kidney energy. The container of the
Hmm.
kidney holds it. And, what else does our kidney do? Our kidney regulates a lot of our stress hormones. Those glands that sit right on top of that are a big part of it. So they, kind of switch back and forth. And what's interesting is when we think about the womb in Chinese medicine, the Jing also helps with regulating the timing of our menarche and the timing of our ability to get pregnant and the timing of when the baby comes to actually give birth. And then also when we start to decline with our perimenopause and menopause, like from menarche to menopause, the Jing is the dial, and your nervous system is clicking up or down to make sure that Jing is dispersing appropriately. But I'm curious, when
Hmm.
you think of systems, especially with like the Mayan stuff, and you mentioned chakras, and I just want to open up a woo woo space for you to kind of explore a conversation. You don't have to spit out information, but just kind of how you feel like with that mind and heart and womb connection and the nervous system, and how we're having to move through the world as women right now. Like how can you help us feel a little more grounded in it? Like it almost brings me to tears thinking about that right now, because I'm like, oh man, it's actually really hard to do. Like what kind of space do you find yourself holding for people right now?
It's interesting because, I have that handle, Womb Wellness Revolution, and then and I kind of like, I'm part of a group in the UK that does this work called Womb Awakening. So every week I'm leading women on this like guided journey to connect with their womb as like an oracle. And I kind of take it for granted that it's the water that they swim in.
Yeah.
But then I hear these stories. People are like, I've never talked to anyone about this before. Or what do you think about this? Like, I know you're into this stuff. And like, I've had so many experiences with both clients and myself personally, where is an energetic connection for me to like the larger field that we experience in our bodies. But I think because birth is such a portal and it's how we come in, it's how we go out, it's how we create life, there is something extra special and extra connected to that greater field when you start to drop into that center.
Hmm.
And it's different than like we have our third eye and the pineal gland and we have the heart. Like those are kind of
Hmm.
the other big areas in the body that you can really connect to that greater field. But for women, and I think part of the imbalance that we're seeing in the world is this like denial of these lower chakras, this lower energy. Like if everybody is sort of anchored in their pelvis and their gut, it's really hard to do a lot of the things that are happening
Right. Right.
with
When you're
like
anchored
because you're
into the truth.
totally out of integrity if like you're really anchored in here, like whether something is right or wrong. You can't just like
Mhm.
think you're like, oh, that seems good on paper, but like your whole body's like, no, stop.
Hmm.
And I think the more women and the more we can talk about this and the more we can just bring it out into the light, the more we're going to just be operating from that place. And my hope is that things can shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they better. We're kind of a little bit under attack right now.
Yeah.
We have
Hmm.
to hold
Yeah.
strong.
And I think there's definitely the last since 2016 been more of a conviction in me to be more out in the world about this, more vocal about it, and more sharing about it. And we need more people talking about these things and normalizing talking about it. Like, I have a cold, I'm bleeding. Like, it shouldn't
Yeah.
be so, yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I know one of my
Um,
favorite things on being in the clinic was with you was both being perimenopausal and both waiting for our periods to come. I was like, "Can you just are you closer than me? Okay, come here. Bring me your abdomen. We need to just put our bellies next to each other
Yeah.
and hum and sing and just yes, my period is coming. Make me
yeah.
come because this luteal phase makes me want to murder everybody." And it's so
Yeah.
good. But there is something about that, even some people don't even know that it's really normal to sync up with the women around you. Like there's so much
Right.
magic that we just and I hate to use
Yes.
that word because it is synonymous with witch and blah blah blah, but it's true. The womb is magical and the energy that
It is.
we share. It's incredible.
I mean,
Mm.
it's this womb awakenings journey. I'm in a circle of women, and 50% of them live in Europe, not even near each other in Europe. And there's like one woman who lives in Hawaii and three that live on the East Coast and one in the Bahamas. And we all
Mm.
seem to have synced up.
Amazing. Okay, so
Like,
I'm dying to know,
Wow.
are you guys full moon bleeders or full moon ovulators?
oh, we've been having discussions about that. Everybody's a little off because some of us are
Yeah,
perimenopausal and
sure.
whatever. But when we started, we all started together. There's like some younger women and there's a range. I've been most recently a full moon bleeder, but there's so much debate about like what the right thing is and like what's more beneficial and blah blah blah. And I think unfortunately this is also a symptom of our modern times and all the like unnatural light we're exposed to and all the
Mm.
like the artificialness of
Yep.
our life is
Right.
that like we're not really like in rhythm with the cycles and in so it's like is it better to bleed on the full moon or the new moon like
Depends on if you
that you're
like to
even
howl when
noticing
you
those things
yeah.
that you're noticing those
Yeah.
things is great. My encouragement for people is to really just start to pay attention.
Mm. Mhm.
5 minutes, 2 minutes in the morning with your hands over your lower abdomen or your belly and just breathing. See what you
Mm.
notice. I mean, it's very simple to start tuning in and just, I mean, I have helped a lot of women with like, they've just had like lots of IBS and colitis and those kind of symptoms too, like just a lot of like inflammation and just getting them to slow down and to breathe and to
Mm.
touch their bellies where their bellies has been such a source of pain and discomfort, like to actually just give themselves some nourishing, gentle touch in that area. It's so calming for the nervous system. And then
Oh,
they just start to, when you're connected to your core, you just start to know what you want to do. And like there's not, it clarifies things.
Mhm. When you do the Mayan abdominal work, from what you've told me before, there's some visceral, like organ manipulation. There's some fascia, like tending to the fascia, making sure that blood is circulating. And I'm just thinking about how we are connecting back into gut health, like you just mentioned with the IBS and so on, keeping that thread of the nervous system going. But when we do work like that, we're getting to the womb, you do have to go through all those other organs. And, when you see
Yeah.
people on their like healing path, do you see them kind of toggle back and forth between, I'm tending a little more to my gut? The thread is always I'm tending to my nervous system, but are you like, okay, let's take some time and really give the messaging to the gut right now, or certain times of the cycle that maybe we would pay attention to that more, or something along those lines?
Right. Yeah. So, what I've seen with the gut and like reproductive health is a lot of women will come. I worked at a fertility clinic, like an acupuncture fertility clinic
mm.
in San
Oh,
Francisco for a
cool.
number of years. Women come in with the goal of wanting to conceive, carry a pregnancy to term. We have to do all this foundational gut health and nervous system health work in order to even get them to a place where they can. So the gut I feel like if the womb's like a plant in your garden, like the gut is the garden
Yeah.
that
Mm,
the womb is like inside of. And so like because that's literally your interface with the outside world is the gut.
Hmm.
And so it's like, what are you taking in? What are you able to take in and utilize? What are you keeping out? You know,
Hmm.
some of it is like,
mm,
what do we need to get out of here so you can take in the nourishment, so you can receive the calming state, you know? It's like it's definitely known in the fertility circles and holistic fertility that like gut is the number one thing to address.
Yeah, and I was
mm.
what came up for me when you said that in, thinking about what little magic pieces maybe people don't know. And one of the things I just thought of was, your menstrual blood, or what we call the heavenly gui in Chinese medicine, is essentially a way for you to detoxify. So,
Yes.
every month, this is a phrase that you taught me and it's been in my head forever, but every month you get your report card. How did I do? Your period comes and you're like, well, obviously it's really clotty and my breasts are super tender. So I wasn't exercising and I was drinking too much and I had too much sugar. You can kind of connect those things back to the symptoms. But I just love that we can think of it as a way to release on many levels.
Yeah, the cycle. So in the Maya abdominal work and in the holistic health coaching, it's like the monthly release of all the uterine tissues really is an opportunity to cleanse every month. And so the during the cycle, like how you nourish yourself during the cycle will be reflected in what it's like to have your period at that point. Like, are you completely wiped out and exhausted? Are you just like coming into your bleed time on fumes? Like it's also just looking at your life. This is like a cycle syncing thing. If you are still bleeding, to like, okay, like when I'm ovulating, like in the middle of the cycle, that's like your peak energy time. So like what can you do? Like that's when you go out all night. Like that's when you go
Mm.
have super fun times. That's when you plan your birthday party. That's when you go do the things to the best of your ability. That's when you give your presentation at work. They've shown that like you're more magnetic, you're more confident at that peak time in your ovulation. And as you start to wind down into what we call your inner fall, your inner autumn, you wrap up things from the month. It's a time to kind of start to pull in, take your exercise down a notch, all that stuff. And then by the time you're bleeding, you're like, cool, I'm ready for like bath, Netflix and chill, have
Hmm.
dinner with one girlfriend who's really like good for my soul,
Hmm.
that kind of energy. And like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you have to give that work presentation on the first day of your bleed. And,
Yeah.
that's just
Yes.
life these days. But to the best of your ability, and if you can make a choice about it, like really just syncing up with the moon and your cycle, you're going to learn so much, so
Yes.
much.
Mm.
I've always found that ovulation is the best time for me to show up on social with my face. Like I find that I'm so
Yeah.
much more articulate and I'm like, I feel more confident and I'm like, okay, I'm batching face videos during ovulation. I'm just getting them all done. Cause then I'll
Yeah.
work on them during the luteal phase when I don't really have a lot of energy to move around. Then we'll, piece them all together.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's definitely, yeah, batching content based on your cycle. That's
It's a
like,
good idea.
it is. I'm like,
Mm, I love it.
yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, okay. And what about the nervous system more in depth? So how do you find, like, what are some of your favorite ways to teach people to regulate the nervous system or to get in touch with the nervous system? Because a lot of what you're saying is really amazing, like taking that time to just kind of listen to your body and reflect on, how your month went and all of that. And I think even just those little tips are a huge insight for a lot of people. So give us some about the nervous system.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, the nervous system could be, I mean, there are. hours and hours of
I
content.
know. I
It's a
know.
deep topic, but I think one thing is also just listening, noticing. It's you can look up really easily, like polyvagal theory, and just kind of orient yourself to what does it look like when I'm in sympathetic, which is like more of the turned on, active go mode, originally designed for when being chased by a tiger
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
some other mortal danger, but many of us are turned on in that way because of the constant demand of our attention and our energy with the way that we have set up productivity and work
Yeah.
in this country and in the world.
Yeah.
There is so knowing what your flavor of what it looks like when you are in that sympathetic, like I cannot sit still, I'm just go, 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 go. For some people, that's like a very mental state. For some
Mhm.
people, that's a very physical, like they literally have to
Walk.
move,
Yeah.
like I gotta go on a run, or I gotta, or they have to get out of there, like they have to leave the situation. And then knowing, well, what does my body feel like when I'm in parasympathetic? And parasympathetic, and this is like a way oversimplification because it's constantly switching on and off based on so many different things our body is dealing with environmentally and energetically and chemically.
Yeah,
So,
the cascade of
um,
hormones takes time
yeah,
too.
the cascade of hormones and stimulus to the nervous system. So the other side of that coin is rest and digest, parasympathetic. Like, what does it feel like in my body when I can just like take a super deep breath, like noticing. So this is one good thing you can do practically is just put your one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly and just
My
close your
favorite.
eyes and
Mm.
start to notice, like, where do I notice right now that my breath is moving? If you are noticing that you're like, well, I don't even notice my breath, I can't tell. You are breathing because your body is always breathing. That's how you're alive. So that's the first step. So if you're really like, I don't feel it, you can start noticing the air coming in and out through your nose. And then you might start to catch like that your chest is rising and falling. And then as you notice that your chest is rising and falling, notice if your belly is going down below the rib cage, all the way down into your belly. And not in like a forced way, but just like you're noticing the belly is moving with the breath. That is when your body makes the bridge breath wise to parasympathetic, is when you feel that breath come into the belly. Then the diaphragm is really leading the breath, and you're not just up here like, which our
Yeah,
bodies are
here.
so smart and need so much oxygen to work that we'll do anything to breathe, but we can walk around like breathing up here, and then you wonder why your
Mm.
neck feels tight, and like all of this is just like, ugh. That is one good way. Some people who do really have like that fight or flight, like flee tendency, do need to go do some sort of like
Burn it off.
heavy exercise, burn it off,
Mm.
take a brisk walk, go on a run, cycle. Like that really does, they need to get that energy out so that then, but the key is that you get that energy out, then you come home and you relax. You do not keep going.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
And
Yeah.
that's what, I saw it constantly when I was teaching yoga. It's like the people that skip savasana
Yeah. Cool.
or
Why?
skip the
You
floor
so
part
earned
at
it.
all.
That's the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
part.
I am
exactly.
totally one of those people.
You get
Yeah,
up and
totally.
go. You
Like,
don't
Get me out
enjoy
of
your
there. I'm
oh
not in a class,
my
but when I'm doing
gosh.
it at home, oh my God, no, I'm
yeah,
out.
so starting to, and it's like a training. When I started my craniosacral training, I did a 3-year deep dive into biodynamic craniosacral. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was massively life-changing because I didn't know that I didn't know how to relax until we were doing those nervous system things I was just doing for like 45 minutes to an hour at a time. And people are snoring and I'm just laying there like stiff.
You're like, I don't know what to
It
do.
took me, yeah,
I don't know what to do. My
I
body,
had
I need
never,
teach me. I don't my body's like, I don't know
yeah.
what's
And
next.
I was like, My body feels like it's like a stiff piece of board, like
Mm-hmm.
laying on this table. And like I just
Yes.
couldn't tolerate laying still. So it's like slowly, slowly,
Yeah, you
like
gotta be
if
so
it's
gentle
5 minutes,
with
yeah. And doing, if you do have that feeling like I just can't lay there, like tense everything up. If
yourself.
you tense everything up, it has to relax.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll feel that
Mm.
sense and take a really deep exhale and like just like you'll feel yourself drop more.
Mm.
So those are like if you're really one of those like pusher wound up kind of people, those are some things. Or pushing against a wall can be really good.
Mhm.
It's like getting that activation energy so that then your body can like discharge that and then come into a more coherent and resourced state.
One thing I found
Mm.
super helpful too and it was actually when I was pregnant that I noticed this the most because I was still in the practice, running around from room to room and I'd be like, all right, I have 5 minutes to rest. And what I found was that if I was to, the belly's all uncomfortable, you can't really sit down. But what I would do is I would add in legs up the wall. And it is
Yes.
Mhm.
surprising, if you do have a short amount of time and you're like, I'm one of those people who my visceral body doesn't quite know what step is next to get to relaxation. There's something about how the blood returns back to the brain, something about the jing and the ability for the body to be able to just quickly go into fight or flight. It's like it's a weird passageway. Like for some reason, when the bottom of your feet are towards the heavens and the energy is coming down, maybe it's that the back is against the earth energy. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just the fact that you aren't under the effects of gravity as much. You're like, okay, let's flip everything upside down, and the body's like, what are we doing? The lymph kind of engages a little bit. I guess it maybe gives the deeper systems a chance to engage, right? Like the more yin, like you literally are flipping upside down, you're going more yin instead of up from yang. And then the jaw is always one that I've noticed that when I don't recognize how much I'm clenching, so to get to the next step, often I'll clench my jaw really really tight and scrunch up my face, and then kind of do more of these with legs up the wall. And for some reason that vibration and the tensing and the releasing is like my body going, oh, I see, we're tightening but we're also releasing afterwards. And even that
Right.
Kegel action, like my jaw and tighten up the Kegels and then relax, and it always just feels so much better. I don't know, little tweaks.
Yeah, the legs up the wall is a great example. I give that to a lot of people. And I think also, like structurally, when we're standing up in gravity, there's so many muscles that are moving to stay like contracted to keep us like we're all sitting
Upright.
up, we're all using
Yeah.
muscles, even though we're not really actively doing anything. And when you lay like that, like the entire pelvic bowl and all the fascia coming in and out of the pelvis can relax.
Yes.
And then all the way up the entire spine, which your parasympathetic is in the cranial section, the cervical section, and your sacrum, and then your sympathetic chain is all in the thoracic. So you're letting all of that relax and be like supported. And I think that that is definitely a huge, quick, easy way to make that transition
Can you explain more
when you
about
don't
what
have a
you
lot of
mean
time.
by the thoracic being sympathetic and the cervical being
Oh yeah,
parasympathetic?
so
What system are we in there?
the nervous system. So the actual like sympathetic ganglion are
Oh, I see what you're saying.
come
Okay.
out. Yeah, so like kind of the central command of your sympathetic is more oriented towards the thoracic,
Mm-hmm.
and then the parasympathetic chain of the ganglion are more in your cervical down into your sacrum. So that's
Right.
like one of the reasons they call it craniosacral. It's like because you're
Hmm.
working with the parasympathetic chain to help relax the body.
It's so funny when we used to work together in the clinic, Katie or I would suggest cranial sacral for our very type A people, and they would always fight it. And we knew that they were going to fight it, which was precisely why we suggested it to like make them uncomfortable and try something. And she's so funny.
Mm.
She'd come out and she'd be like, they melted. All I had to do was cradle their occiput. And they were like, even though they were like, no, 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 don't make me do it. And it's so funny. You just provide that little lightness and you're out,
Mhm.
But also that's
Yeah.
having help. Like their body didn't know how to do it. So you created a beautiful
Yeah.
little
Mhm.
cradle for them, and that helps them learn.
Yeah, and they're doing more and more studies on this, but there is really a large body of work emerging, especially with like the Heart Math Project, and the coherence of the people around you really affects like your nervous system. And so if there's somebody whoever is like the most coherent in their nervous system, like meaning like the healthiest expression in their nervous system of like a well-regulated nervous system, people will entrain to that.
Okay. I like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Of course, all of this stuff needs more research.
Yeah.
Of
But
course.
but yeah.
I think just living that, having, when, you're talking with clients, Molly, or you're working with people, Katie, and even just me in the clinic, you're in that position to hold the space and show the direction of calm. And whether you like it or not, you've signed up for it because you want to do this work, but you kind of quickly learn how to get there, even just out of
Mm-hmm.
necessity. But it can also be for others, not necessarily for yourself. Like there's a difference between really sinking in and knowing how it feels to be connected in with you and what you need, as opposed to what you're mirroring from the person in front of you and what they might need. And that can go through
Mm.
relationships and your children and your work and all of it. So I guess being anchored in
Yeah.
your womb is a great place to be during all of that.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'll say is if you are newly wanting to explore your nervous system and know you kind of need to ratchet it down, doing it with the support of somebody guiding you, whether that's like a teacher teaching a class or like a one-to-one person or somatic experiencing person, it really is helpful in case, big stuff comes up, or just to have that support. We really do heal in community.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I
Um,
think people might go into modalities that really are meant to engage you within your parasympathetic, like a simple massage or acupuncture or a float tank or going and getting a lymph
right.
drainage or even just getting an IV. All of these things, if you can look at them as an opportunity to allow your nervous system to train, as opposed to just like going through the thing like, oh, I'm going to get my monthly massage. Okay, well, crush it, do the best you can, like maybe do a walk and make yourself really exhausted, or if you're one of those type A people and you got to burn it off, like go burn it off before you go in, then you'll get super
Before.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Kind of work with
Yeah.
what your C's are, I suppose.
Work with what you got.
For
Start
sure.
where you
Fair
are,
enough.
right?
Yeah, I love it.
This has been awesome talking with you both.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. One thing I'm curious
Oh,
about, if you don't mind sharing, Katie, is when our hormones are predictable, so to speak, like when we have a steady stream, when from menarche to perimenopause, and then perimenopause starts and we're doing a lot of, relying on our endocrine system and our nervous system and a lot of our glands to regulate a lot of maybe what the hormones can't do anymore. It's doing double duty. I'd love for that to be tangible for people within your bubble, if that makes any sense. So what I kind of imagine is like, okay, if this is where, that parasympathetic nervous system connects in with all of our glands in our body, it's normal to see cervical tension. Like, how else can we tune in to when our nervous system is off if we're already trying to figure out what the hell's going on with our body? I kind of call this the chicken or the egg. Like, is it my hormones or is it my nervous system? Well, usually it's probably a little bit of both, but you're probably in one of those
yeah.
states. So how do you make it tangible? Be like, okay, I need to regulate my nervous system, as opposed to maybe I need to nourish my system for my upcoming cycle, or where I am with that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think it's like a two-pronged approach.
Mm-hmm.
The nervous system, responds quickly and in the moment.
Yeah.
And the hormones are slow but have a more global reach. And then perimenopause, I mean, the gloves are off, man. I don't know. It's
the chicken or the egg. You're like, I don't know. It's half.
Right.
It's just the tip of the egg is in. That's all I know.
It's just a wild, it's like the Wild West, man. I can't believe sometimes like I'll have straight because I'm right in there. I'm 48. I'll have some weird symptom and then be like, oh, that also too. Okay. Like itchy ears or like, you can't believe where these estrogen are and how the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone even are like affecting everything globally. And so for a lot of people, if they go through their childbearing years and they have relatively straightforward pregnancies, if they choose to have children, they heal pretty well. Like they don't really pay attention to this stuff because we're not trained to.
Right.
And then they get to perimenopause and they are like,
who am I and what have I done with this person? Yeah.
WTF. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Yeah.
And so, first of all, start tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Tracking, I mean, from the minute you start bleeding, track. That's like, you get so much information. And then, like, the hormones and the nervous system, like, do the things like getting acupuncture, like getting an acupuncture treatment immediately lowers the burden on your nervous system. But over time, getting regular acupuncture shifts your hormones. And so, I think support and doing herbs or, finding if HRT is helpful. But I do think if the nervous system is not managed, it's really hard to get a handle on the hormones because it's just, you're on like a wild stallion that's like run off.
Right.
So
it is a wild stallion.
Yeah. So I sort of said both.
Yeah,
Which I know isn't helpful.
No, it is though, because what I hear you saying is with or without hormone, your nervous system still needs to be able to regulate in a way that, like let's say you're like, I'm in the thick of it. I don't know if I start putting on, progesterone cream or maybe just like setting up an appointment with a menopause informed gynecologist, that in the meantime, maybe I'll start using this progesterone cream. You're like, okay, but also if you are so stressed out and you're letting your blood sugar get super wacky and maybe you have an autoimmune disorder and you're just kind of scraping the surface of tending to that, what do you think your body's going to do when you put in the messaging of this deep global thing that essentially controls everything and none of those systems are in control? And then you go and throw progesterone on and you're like, well, I can't tell what's happening. It didn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you didn't really give it a good chance.
Well, and also, with the gut, if your gut is imbalanced and the nervous system is imbalanced, you throw hormones on top of that and like you can get some really bad reactions. I'm personally working with that. I reacted badly to a couple of hormones, which tipped me off to needing to pay attention to my gut because my gut went crazy when I tried to take these. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to do some gut work here.
Right. And it's almost like,
and then I'll try to return to the hormones. Right. But for now, my focus is gut. So
yeah. And maybe something and like topical also, instead of orally for a while while you're doing that.
That's exactly
to not shock the system too much.
And I think the other thing is we can get really like overwhelmed with the like to-do list of wellness. And so like very small, achievable, like if you're like, oh, I'm drinking too much coffee and not enough water, like just make it your goal to drink like more water than coffee.
Right.
Like the simple,
just
the simple, achievable things. Like in our family, like people had kind of fallen off the fruit and veggie wagon. So I'm like, everybody needs to eat a cup of veggies at every meal. And I know you could eat more than that, but still, like, it's just these little things that start to move and then those little habits stack. Whereas like it can be so overwhelming to be like, I'm in perimenopause, I have gut and nervous system and I'm burned out and my hormones are whack. Like I need to change my whole life. Like, no. Can you take like one bath a week? Can you like
Go to bed
go
earlier.
for a 30-minute walk, go to bed earlier,
Mhm.
turn off the TV. Like, just like the simplest things actually make the most difference because they're sustainable
Mhm.
and you can make them actually take hold. If you try to do like some big global reboot, like
Yeah.
you're the structure, you can't hold it.
Unless it's a
Yeah.
reboot over a long period of time that's rooted
Well, that's what
in
I'm
Right.
all
saying.
the small
Like,
things.
if
Yeah.
you
Little by little.
if
Mhm.
you do those little things by the end of like
Mhm.
12 months, you will have rebooted. But
Right.
it's like slow habits that stack on top of each other, not trying to like, rebuild Rome in a day, as they say.
Absolutely. That's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
Katie, you're the best. Thanks for sharing.
It was fun talking with both of you.
Oh, it was so fun talking to you. And I hope, we can say that again, like little things, incremental things that even on this podcast, we cover so much. And it does that to-do list of wellness. I love how you put that.
Mhm.
So let's all go out and do something that is going to be stackable from this. I know that I personally am really going to spend a little more time listening to my body and Savasana.
Yes. Don't skip
Yes.
Savasana, young lady. You earned it.
Do
That is
not
the
skip
sweetest spot.
Savasana.
Never. Oh my gosh. Sometimes they have to wake me up. They're like, girl, we got to mop the floor. Get out of here. I'm like, what? Okay. Okay. I'll go. Well, thank you, Katie.
All
I
right.
love you the most.
Yes.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us today. And as always, listen to what your gut is telling you, not what you are telling your gut.
Oh, there you go.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We offer personalized support to clients in many ways and would love to work with you. Reach out to Laura at Lala's Wellness and Molly at Women's Gut Health for more information. Unlock your full health and hormone potential with Super Cute, Boom Bomb, and Best Tea. Check out the link in the show notes for more. See you next Saturday.